Welcome back to the channel, and we're here with another Hacker Hangouts on another Saturday, and we are wondering, what will the future generation think of us? And for so many reasons, and I don't want to devolve around into, back in my day, we used to use the Dewey Decimal System. But I think the question is, like, when we move forward, and we're looking back, like, what things will we look at now where we're just like, you guys were idiots. And I think we can look at like earlier, again, we have full context of the situation. But to call out the first one, at one point, everything was over HTTP. That was the norm. Banking systems, plain text, over the internet. And then we would deal with technology issues like Gator's audio feeding back into the stream. And we would look back and be like, these people have no idea what they're doing. But we would learn in advance, and that was a subtle hint to Gator to stop the feedback. But thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us. But this has been a concept that's been in my head because I always look back and go, what were we doing that was just like so silly back then? I mean, and I guess I'll throw that out to throw just like the first subject. What do you guys think is going to be some of the things that we're going to look back and just be like, you guys were insane? Crypto, you think so?
Oh yeah. I think in 15 years, crypto will more or less be dead.
I think
just because. Yeah.
I think like the I just get Gator messages. He's like, "Don't worry, I fixed it." So for anyone,
I was going to say no, I didn't touch anything. That's the problem.
I think crypto it is such a touchy subject, but I do think like there's pieces of this, like with any new technology, some of it falls away, but then pieces survive. Like I think the idea of like public ledgers and things like that work. I think smart contracts are really, really interesting, intriguing. I think like the NFT stuff is a ridiculous gong show of just nonsense. But I'm actually long on crypto. Like I actually do believe it is here to stay for so many reasons. There's businesses built around it. What do you think about the technology? Do you think that stuff's going?
I don't see an actual use case for it. So we've been on the crypto train for like 10 years, like maybe longer at this point, 12 years, something like that. It was, back in it started in 2008, 2009 with Bitcoin, something like that. There still isn't a use for it.
Oh, I would disagree.
There's no use for it.
Gator, do you want to go on?
So it is a speculative instrument, and that's it.
So much like other things in our society, it's held by the people who think that it's worth something. I don't think that the technology that we have right now with cryptocurrency is the end goal, let alone the best use case for it.
So I'm going to pull us out of crypto because this is going to devolve into like the most obnoxious conversation. We'd spend an hour on that. I want to pull it back to like things like, again, the HTTP protocol that we know is silly, and when we built advancements on it. Things like concepts like privacy. We had this like right now, I think, is one of those ones we are going to look back and think about the privacy aspects and go like, we thought the internet was promised to be this decentralized, beautiful thing that everyone can share. And then you had certain entities like back in my day, there was no way to actually search the internet. Like if you wanted to go find someone who was selling ties online, you guessed ties.com. You wanted to go like buy a custom t-shirt, you try customtshirt.com. You would go on like a messaging board or IRC and then exchange things. And then search engines came along like Dogpile and Ask Jeeves and all these other ones, which were just all crap. And then like, Google, Yahoo was one of the best search engines.
And so the point being that like today we have the search engine and we look back at web rings and we go, wow, what an awful idea.
Yeah.
Why didn't anybody think of indexing this like the Dewey Decimal System before, right? All right. So in that sense, I think I mean like getting a little political-ish, but like I think a decade, actually 2 decades from now, people are going to look back at us in the 2000s and 2010s and be astonished that we didn't own anything, right? You don't own your phone. Not really. You can't fix it, right? Like they're going to be astonished by the fact that we allowed ourselves to be put into this position where we couldn't understand any of the gear that we were using because we just handed all over those rights over. So I think that's one of the big ones. And that kind of goes along with privacy. And we're kind of hitting that now. It's just like, how could we just let corporations, how Facebook, they're going to look at us with Facebook and be like, wow, how could you guys just hand the greatest intelligence agency on earth all of your data, like stuff
Yeah.
like that, right?
I think exactly that. Like, how could, and you use these services? Like, I think the idea of privacy fits in there, and I think the idea of, we'll say like news, like the fact that again we talk about fake news and whatnot, not even to avoid politics, but simply like the idea that we had the older generation who could trust news. And for us, all of us have become skeptics for anything. Why? Because the internet was the thing that said the world is flat, that Bigfoot existed. Like maybe not that to that extent. In these like internet memes, like almost we just start trolling the world. And now all of a sudden they're like, it's fake news. It's like, no, it's an internet meme that has existed and has floated along. And I think we're going to look back and go like, they had no way of actually knowing truth. Like there was no way in this. Now, again, that could probably go back generations, but I do think that's when we're going to look back and like, there was no verifiable anything online. Like nothing is verified.
I argue against the whole people are going to be more private in the future because privacy is degrading day by day around the world. Now, we're paranoid. We have privacy. We believe in privacy. We do things to be more private. But the vast majority of people are the sheep that are just dumping as much information as they can online at the fastest pace that they possibly can in hopes of their 15 minutes of fame and fortune.
I mean, I take exception to that, I think. I think I agree with it to a certain extent. What, Gowrie?
TikTok exists. Sorry,
TikTok,
buddy.
TikTok absolutely exists. No, I would agree. Like I think but I think just saying like general sheep, like in calling everyone like this idea of and they just want their 15 minutes of fame. I think there's things like they also want to, these are social medias. I think there are the ones which we go, okay, all of these people searching for fame, but then there's other ones who have grown like a group of friends online and just want to share these things back and forth. Sure, if the world looks at them too. But I don't think I would necessarily say like they're giving up their privacy by doing this. They're knowingly putting certain things out there, and I think this is the rub. Gulo?
I don't think that they're knowingly putting things out there because they don't know. They're just posting, and they're posting from younger and younger ages about everything. If it was just some things here and there, no big deal. But people are posting their entire lives. They're posting their emotional damages, their traumas. They're posting their fun videos, their dumb videos, their homework. I watch TikTok videos of people just eating food.
Yeah, but that
in
whatever.
Their car. It made me super hungry, but now it's like this information's out there because they only eat tacos. That's all they've ever eaten.
But the counterpoint to that though is they're choosing to put it out there. It's not like it is what they want to portray to the world. I can portray myself as like a foot obsessed person if all I do is post foot pics online. That doesn't mean that's who I am as a reality. Like again, this is devolving in kind of a weird thing because I think we look back at this and say, okay, privacy as an ideal, like they gave up this is the core of what Gowrie was saying. We're giving up so much privacy to Google and Facebook and TikTok and all of that. And we're going to look back and be like, did they not have any concept of privacy? Like, did they not care about it? Or were they not just aware that this data was going to be out there forever and then could be used for these other things?
So that, to your point there, I think it's going to be more apparent in the future just how much our data has been used and abused and sold again, to where the data that we continue to feed the machines are going to come back to bite people in the butt. And it's going to come back to bite the corporations. Now, how much is actually going to bite them in like a monetary sense? these folks are growing so fast when it comes to just selling that information and selling it again. They're gathering money like it's going out of style. And what I see in the future happening is that hopefully the laws are going to go through and catch up to say, hey, why weren't these privacy acts put in place earlier to say that these damages are going to be happening to you as your online personhood versus how we are literally giving away all of our information for free or for free services at this point. And I'm seeing that that's possibly going to change here in the future.
I would say that money buys the laws.
It does. Oh, absolutely.
If you take a look at what Facebook has done for even like the 2016 election, without going too far into politics and stuff, if you just look at what they've done and what they did and what they're currently doing, nothing has changed. The whole Meta VR thing is the whole next level of I'm now tracking exactly where you're looking on while you're in VR at all times, so I know which ads you're paying attention to, which colors, which blinky lights are drawing your attention.
Let's go on this because I'm going to be the Luddite. I think the metaverse is going to be the thing that everyone looks at and goes, "The fuck were they thinking?" They're going to look at it and be like, "That's fucking stupid." Look at these the idiots. Like, who wanted to? And I'm going to be the Luddite that says that, yeah, they're going to try to make it happen, but ultimately it's not going to happen.
I think that's interesting to that point of with the different VR. If you're going to do the heads up VR that's on the actual headset that has the tracking cameras, that's also gathering all of your points all around your room as you're playing, which means it's literally filming what's around your room at all points in times as it's tracking. And as soon as there's a dump that says, hey, these have been collected and they've now scraped your room for interesting projects or products like the Baya or the Raspberry Pis or whatever else. I wish.
Yeah.
No, the Raspberry Pi Foundation is, call me. That's going to be the interesting part because we're going to have issues.
Well, and definitely it's going to be like, no, we're definitely not doing that. We're definitely not doing that. Like just what happened this week, TikTok. We're definitely not. The Chinese government is definitely not accessing U.S. people's data on TikTok. Fast forward to 3 days ago, report comes out saying they did it, right? Like, oh no, that thing we all knew they were going to do is what they did. This is my surprised face. All right, I want to go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say is I find it funny with the VR thing where it's like I think in hindsight you get to make more connection points. Like while you're in it, you don't necessarily connect the dots. And I think it is funny. They're like, where did they get this idea? They're like, oh, they read the book Ready Player One. Is that book? They saw how that book ended. Like, how did they not think that was the end story here? Like they had it written, but who was going to say they were going to pull it?
All those monies that they can see by the 80% of the advertisement that they can put on screen before causing a seizure. And all that money is money in their pockets, man. Come on.
It's all about the progression of systems. No one thought that the computer was going to be in everyone's home. No one thought tablets were going to be in everyone's hands. No one thought that everyone was going to carry around cell phones. It's all a progression of technology, and the next progression is going to be most likely augmented reality, mixed VR, and mixed reality. So as time goes on, it's going to become more and more prolific as more and more people adopt it. And I know Gowrie and I disagree on this subject. So I think we've talked about this before.
We have. I'm gonna propose one that I think we can all agree on. You ready?
Oh boy.
Oh,
go one lightning cable or USB-C to rule them all.
Just cables in general. My gosh.
The one
I'm looking. I wish you guys could see. I'm looking like at my desk. I have 12 different form of cable in front of me, all delivering power to different devices that all plug into the wall in different ways. And I have a laptop now that charges over USB-C. Magic. Everything should be USB-C. The end.
So I'm in very close to the same boat with you, to where most of my devices are USB-C now. The Lightning for like the iPods, and then the one iPhone that's on the desk, and then the connectors, the 1/4-inch jack for the headset. And obviously, when we're talking about like podcasting equipment, you don't want that over USB-C. You can get better quality with XLR, but that's just me.
Yeah. Well, audio, that's different in special use. But I'll say that even to the extent of like wireless charging for your phone being ubiquitous, like it's going to be embedded into tables everywhere. And people 20 years from now are going to look at us like, look at these Neanderthals using cables to plug their phones in. I just stayed in a hotel this past week that had chargers built into the end tables. I didn't even need a cable. I just put my phone on the charger, and
what kind
that's
of
going to be
rich-ass
everywhere.
hotels do you stay at? Good Lord.
What's up?
What kind of rich-ass hotels do you stay at? Good
it
Lord.
it wasn't even that good of a hotel, but it was in Silicon Valley, so there is that.
I just stayed at a Motel 6 a couple of days ago.
Yeah, I think universal cables.
These pucks don't cost very much. They're like $5.
Yeah, they've come. It is kind of amazing. I do think like it maybe even like a higher level of standardization, and I think this is where it becomes just so funny, because like there's the XKCD joke we can continue to talk about. It's like there are 14 standards. Whoever thought of having the 14 standards? Yeah. I'm going to make one universal standard to rule them all. Next frame, there are now 15 standards. Yep. I think that's getting better. Like with USB-C and laws pushing down, I think what's really weird though is when it comes at least like to my space, like compliance and things like that, I don't think that's getting better. That's in that phase of it's going to get way worse before it gets better. I think cables got way worse and then became better. I think there's going to be just this repeating history of certain things within technology where it gets way worse before it gets better.
So let me.
Did you just say MySpace?
That's what I heard too. I'm like, Facebook, MySpace. What are you talking about? Oh, he's talking about the physical area he's working in. I understand now.
Yeah. Let me pitch this one then. We're talking about things that are cyclical, right? How many more cycles do you think we have between like going mainframe versus personal computing, right? Like, is everything going to be in the cloud, or am I going to need a big chunky computer? And then how often are we going to go back and forth? Or is this going to be an evergreen thing? Or like, is it eventually going to be the point where people look at us and they're like, you had a computer in your home? Why would you have an entire computer? That doesn't make sense. I can just access whatever I need from my phone.
So Gator, you go, and then I'll pull it from you.
I see this continuing to circle in the cycle, because we've gone to mainframe and thin clients, to main machine underneath your desk, to now we're talking about phones. We're talking about the ARM race, literal ARM, and we're going to virtualize ARM, and then it's going to go to the cloud ARM, and then it's going to come to RISC, and then it's going to be RISC on the desktop, then it's going to be RISC in the cloud, and then it's going to come back again. It's just going to be the same thing, just different architectures, man. That's my opinion.
Is where I think I disagree. I don't think it has been shifting mainframe to personal computer. I don't think it has, even though I know that there's like I'm arguing with what feels like history. I think we've gotten more and more smart with what layers should do what things. Insert JavaScript and the gong show that is JavaScript between Vue, React. By the way, there's Nux, Next, and Nest. My gosh, whoever comes up with these naming convention should be shot. Like just like either way. But I think we became more efficient because we started realizing within the web sphere, we went from like ASP.NET, server client infrastructure, to then going, let's do, and again, there's all these steps along the line of doing like an SPA, and then those would have to be different languages. And then you have this idea of client-side rendering, where everything's just HTML, JavaScript, CSS. And then we came to like what the current state is, server-side rendering. And this is because browsers have become more and more and more advanced. We haven't necessarily done cyclical of going, okay, server client. There's always been a server client. But we've realized, okay, the fastest way to do this is by putting more of this rendering on the client side. And we've learned how to do better balancing, at least with web. I think we're going to figure out that same thing when it comes to ARM, personal computers. What parts are going to be the best efficiency by running on server? What is going to be the best efficiency here? And it's not going to be these massive shifts going full mainframe, but it's going to just be better balance over time to make sure everything's using its working to its best efficiency.
Touche.
I disagree.
Oh, really?
Go
for it. I got to hear it.
I mean, I build servers for a living. I build clients for a living. I do all these distributions using VMware, using Docker, using VirtualBox, using the cloud, using all these things. I literally am just moving the exact same pieces between different setups. Am I doing the rendering in the cloud, or am I doing rendering on the client for VR stuff? I'm literally taking the same piece and I'm migrating it to a server. And then a year or two later, I'm migrating it back down to the client. And now, once again, I'm taking that same exact structure and I'm moving it back up to a cloud or back up to a server infrastructure. I'm moving the rendering. I'm moving the services. I'm literally moving the entire.
Why is it moving back and forth? Is that in order to disagree with this? Why is it moving back and forth?
Idiots. They're everywhere.
Okay, it still doesn't prove the point.
Literally, I'm taking the entire infrastructure. I've been doing this my entire career of where does the actual compute happen? Does it happen on bare metal? Does it happen in a virtualized environment? Does it happen at Docker? Does it happen inside of an API? Now, you're correct. There are some services and there are some things that we're figuring out what the best efficiency are for them. But the way the technology grows is generally I'm going to have more power at the client side of things. And that's where I'm going to be running my games. That's where I'm going to be running like my video rendering. I'm going to be doing all those things at the client. And eventually we catch up to that and we start pulling that information up into the cloud. It all depends on where the bottleneck is. So yes, it is an efficiency thing, but that bottleneck is always changing and we're always pulling things that used to be mainframe down to the client. And then once we figure out that bottleneck, we're taking that information and pushing it back up to a mainframe.
It doesn't even sound like you're disagreeing with this, but I'll pull us to another part of this, which is someone mentioned this in thing, which is cost. And I call out cost is going to be the motivating factor for a lot of these things. The reason why we don't use the cloud for a lot of things within mini projects is it's expensive. It's super expensive. Let's use Lambda. Lambda is AWS specific, but serverless functions. It works. There's everyone has their version of it. Effectively, I have a piece of JavaScript or Python or whatever it is. I just want to run it and kill it. Those incredibly cheap. You can run that exact same thing within Flask, which is like just Apache or something like that, or you can run it on a bare metal server, but it's going to be more expensive to do it on bare metal. Or you can run it on the client side, but the best efficiency for it is running in cloud, and it's become cheaper to do that, so we moved it to Lambda. So I don't hear anything where you're disagreeing with me, Gulo, minus the fact that you're just saying, oh, we keep moving it back and forth because we're idiots. But in the overarching technology, we're going towards maximum efficiency, and I think that is something that I think at least in my field, one we're going to look back on is that we have always been in startup mode. With the entire internet, we've been in startup mode. We go and we build something cool and we continue to iterate over it, but we never actually look at the overarching architecture of it for future state. Look at BGP and internet routing and whatnot. It's always been iteration over iteration and not a re-architecture. And I'm wondering if in the future we're going to actually take a look at what we have right now and going, why didn't they rip it around and re-architect it? And for obvious reasons, you can't just do that.
So, okay. When I did my whole little speech thing, I figured out what it is that I actually wanted to say. So I caught up with my own thought process. When we're developing technology at different areas and at different rates. So I'm in the VR realm. I'm in the augmented reality realm. All of that exists at the client level currently because that's where the consumers are at. We have to get the consumers on board. So we build the technology for them. and we move more to a client-based solution when we do that. As time goes on, we eventually take that same technology, we move it up to rendering in the cloud. And so then as networks speed up, we're now doing more and more in the cloud or on servers, and then pushing it down to the clients. But as technology comes out, we will invariably bring it into either the server realm or into the client realm. And yeah, we're still looking for the best efficiency, but we literally ping pong back and forth between client server architectures because of where the technology is being pushed at that time when it first comes out.
I almost regret bringing this one up.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's just like we're. Go ahead.
It's going to be interesting because this does keep on cycling, and because we all have different opinions on this, we're not the only ones, and industry's still trying to figure this out. And on top of cost, we've also got the risk and risk aversion, right? To where if you don't want to be responsible for having to harden these different things, push that off to a third party, so then I don't have to deal with that. Then when it comes to critical infrastructure, you having to do it, you have to bring it back in again, and then you have to hire a security team. So this is just going to continue to cycle, in my opinion.
Oh, there we go. I think one of the things, and like, I think this has already sort of happened to an extent within, and maybe you guys will disagree with me on this, outsourcing of software development around critical infrastructure. I mean, like, or windmills in our power systems being inundated with technology and software that comes from all over the place, not knowing the source, not having a trusted source. I think that is probably going to be one of the biggest things. I think we all think about this and we are all terrified of it to some extent today. But I think 30 years from now, maybe after it all breaks and nuclear war has killed us all, everyone's going to have looked back and been like, yeah, maybe outsourcing all of our critical infrastructure wasn't a good idea. What do you think?
I think one part of this, which has me laughing, is I wonder if they're going to look back and go like, this was effectively like a 70s like hippie and inbreeding infectious like relationship, in this incestual relationship of open source software. Yep. Oh, I'm throwing you under the bus.
Go ahead.
Because you look at almost any, you talk about critical infrastructure and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
How much of this is reused code that they don't know? Like, you build anything. Like, again, I always like JavaScript, and I'll throw that under the bus. Like, you pull in a single package, but let's just say, like, oh, I'm going to write a C# application or C++, whatever it is. And you go, okay, cool. You're using a third-party IDE. You don't know that. You're not writing your own protocol stack, your TCP stack. You're pulling that in. Like, that's third party. So at a certain point, it's third party. It's turtles all the way down. It's third party on top of third party on top of third party. Now, you can trust it. Why? Because everyone uses it. But if a vulnerability is found in, everyone's screwed. I think we are going to look at this time and go, this was some ancestral open source hippie love fest, which is just ready to break at any time.
There's no difference.
Go ahead.
There's no difference between open source and closed source in that argument. Closed source just means that there's not more eyes on it to figure out that there are security vulnerabilities in it. We've already learned this, that companies will not solve problems, will not fix security holes and patch things unless the community is going to their doors with pitchforks and torches saying, you need to patch this. They will always sweep it under the rug because it costs more to fix it than it does to ignore it.
I disagree with that. I mean, I think at a certain point you can say sure, but I think at a certain point you're saying like no one's interested in fixing their software because it costs too much. No, I think that it's a Windows 3.0 problem. There's always going to be vulnerabilities. There's always too many vulnerabilities. It's always going to iterate over and over and over again. It's until it becomes an issue or a compliance issue or things like that. What's up, Gulo?
This is like hacker history. It was the argument between full disclosure or non-disclosure. And it wasn't until we started to fully disclose vulnerabilities that the companies were like, oh crap, we actually need to fix these. They completely ignored everything for years.
But even still, I mean, like, so that's the thing. Go look at critical vulnerabilities in anything, and you'll be able to find hordes of equipment out there still utilizing unpatched stuff. I think 30 years from now, people are going to look back at this and be like, "Oh, these fucking idiots."
So
you wonder if there's going to be a level of obfuscation on like the cloud, like on the global. But again, the only way I can think to fix it on a higher level is more centralization, like DNS Flare with their WAF technology, DNS Flare with their DDoS technology. You can bring it more and more centralized and get these global level protections, which could actually do patching. Like I think Cloudflare actually had Log4j patches, like which would actually catch it if you went through their transparent firewall.
But now you're the Saki line all over again. Of you're talking about incestuous of building open source and the hippies and everything else. If you're centralizing all that, you're now a single target that's running a monoculture that is now easier to attack. And when that one monoculture is attacked, that whole culture dies or crashes. Having multiple technologies out there, having a moving target makes it more difficult for you to actually attack everything all at the same time.
I mean, I'm talking about defense in depth. There's layers to defense. Gary?
It's an onion.
It's an onion.
It's an onion.
Or a parfait.
You got to peel back the layers there.
Everybody loves parfaits. Parfaits are delicious. So this comes down to the whole, are you actually checking your sources? And this is true when it comes to news. This is true when it comes to software. If you are inherently trusting something, that is a risk that you're taking on. And I think in the future, there is this huge push of actually finding out, hey, has this been validated versus just trusting that somebody has?
I totally disagree.
I have to stand and disagree with you there, because I tell you what, when it comes to like Bitwarden, when it comes to other open source tools that have got third parties to come in and audit their stuff, those are now more trusted than the ones that are just anybody open sourcing anything. And this is why, and I'm going to get on my little high horse. I might even put on a different hat, because who's supporting the open source community? Are they getting paid for doing that?
But Batman,
Batman, it's Batman. We all need a Batman in our lives. The point is that if you're not willing to be able to help contribute, whether monetarily, with your time, with your testing, if you're not giving back to the community, it's not going to get better.
But so that's the point, right? Like that's actually my point, and I think I'm going to come back around and say, like, this whole time I've been saying that people in the future are going to look back at us and be like, look at these idiots using all these unpatched things and not being able to get their security stuff together or whatever. And then they're going to turn around and go, oh, wait, who got broke into this week? Like, it's like 30 years from now, I don't think it's going to be any better. But they're going to look at us and be like, it was definitely worse back then. They still used passwords.
So I'm going to steer us away from the whole password thing, because I think that's a farce. I'm going to go to when we're talking about the infrastructure and talking about being able to get those parts sourced, whether it's hardware or software. What about the whole home automation and IoT? What do you guys think about what the future generations are going to think about that?
So this is
Go ahead.
This is the makerspace area, and this is the area that I really love, and the fact that the home automation, IoT, if you're buying an Amazon or Google or an Alexa or whatever the hell you're buying, that I think that you're going to be mocked horribly. But we have the ability and the technology now for standard people to build and or order the exact things that they want to make their lives better. And that's kind of where the makerspace came out of. I want to have this one widget that does this very specific thing that no one makes because no one wants to buy it other than maybe 3 people on the entire planet. So then they build and do those things. Now that I've said that, I realize your whole IoT thing you were talking about, like Amazon and Alexa and all that other crap, and Yeah, I really hope people wake up and quit using that, but that's not going to
No.
happen anytime
No,
soon.
you're going to have Amazon houses. You're going to have Google houses. And by that, I mean like freshly built houses. And I'm positive this is happening today. There is a freshly built house on the market somewhere with everything already fully integrated. Every switch in the house, speakers in all the ceilings,
They
microphones all
exist.
throughout the house. I guarantee you this exists. And it's like a freshly built house, probably somewhere in Silicon Valley. It probably costs $4.5 million and has 2 bathrooms and 3 bedrooms.
They're everywhere now.
It's a lot of
They're
space.
everywhere
I was
now.
thinking
You
it was
can
a
buy those in
studio
the
apartment
country.
for $4 million.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I think that people aren't going to look poorly on that. I think people are going to look. I think people are going to be like us today. We look and we're like, oh, people didn't have electricity in their houses in the 1910s and 1920s, and it wasn't fully electrified until the 1950s. They're going to look at us like, what do you mean you had to go to your computer to look something up? I just ask Alexa, Google.
So, okay, this goes back to the social media point. Everyone is posting everything online, and it's going to get the home automation systems are recording absolutely everything you say. And it's been shown in court cases, it's been posted online, there's news stories, no one cares. No one cares about
Objection,
privacy
hearsay.
anymore.
Sustained.
Hearsay.
Like I think like
there's a court case where people were like murdered in a house and
he was memeing about the Johnny Depp case, man.
Oh, my bad.
Hearsay.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
My bad.
That wasn't clear.
Yeah.
I think part of it though is like I think there are court cases, but on the other side of things, I think like it's interesting that I'm curious why I think we're gonna have smarter connections into IoT, because right now we know they're untrusted devices. I mean, I say we know. I think even like it's gotten to the point of like the people who are not in technology start realizing like, should I trust these devices? And I think like Apple and Amazon, and I'm not saying they're the best, like those tend to be more trusted devices, where yet you can Kickstarter. I think it was like a Wook or something like that. I always joked about calling the woke doorbell, but it was my dad got a Kickstarter doorbell called like a Wook or something like that, and it was like a smart one to connect with like Nest Hello or something like that, like to compete with it. But ultimately, it was like a Kickstarter doorbell that you had to put online and things like that. Like, I think certain companies will become like trusted, but then other ones, like I think even normal people go, I shouldn't probably be plugging this external thing into my computer. I mean, into my home network. And I think we're going to get smarter home networking, where you're going to have like the IoT network, and that automatically where some of your home security is going to segment off these devices, like, and recognize that not every computer in your home network needs to communicate cross to everything else. There's no reason Alexa needs to like scan my whole house.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to happen, but that's only going to happen through the large integrators like Google and Alexa. Otherwise, it's going to be hodgepodge of whatever you link up. Because right now, like I have smart lights and stuff in my house, and it's like I need 4 freaking different apps to control everything, because not one group doesn't make everything that I want to put into my house, and they all have their own separate app. It's like a nightmare.
So that's supposed to change with Matter as well. This is a heads up, and Matter is supposed to be coming. Dipping the big toe into the Home Assistant literally last night, because I have different smart devices I've hooked up to a separate network, and last night I finally installed my Pi, got Home Assistant up and running. I'm like, oh shit, this is actually really easy. And how much of this is now touching the internet versus how much of it is just staying home? So am I going through a third-party cloud? No, I'm doing it myself. Damn it. And I wish that I could agree. Go ahead.
Can we go the opposite direction for a second and be like, what do you think somebody from the 1950s transported to today all of a sudden would have to say about you saying the sentence, I installed my Pi?
Right? Right?
You're like, what do you mean? You mean you ate your pie? What are you talking about?
Absolutely.
You
Installed
eat
it into my
pie. You
brain.
don't install pie.
Like, are we talking like American Pie, or are we talking like apple pie, or
No. That American Pie, you're installing yourself into the pie. Yeah.
So
Other way around, you're installing the pie into you.
Yeah, I do think there's a lot of things like that, especially with home automation. Like I think a lot of that stuff will continue, but I think like it calling about like this whole like a cyclical type of thing that goes back and forth. I think we go through like these fad versus we have a fad technology. Apple Watch, perfect example. I think is it started as a fad. There's not a lot of value to having an Apple Watch. Now, it started off that, and then all of a sudden, like, I have an Apple Watch. I really like it because I can configure notifications. It's great because I can leave my phone at home. If we go up to the lake or something, I kind of have a phone on my wrist. It's super nice and convenient. I don't have to, like, go swimming with my phone type of thing. And point being is, I think we get this idea of home automation hitting this fad thing, and then will it continue and shove off? And actually like become a useful technology, because even now I can control the lights in my office with Apple, yet at the same time it's like it's less efficient than just hitting a light switch. Like it really is.
And that's where I waited for so long, partly because I was renting, I didn't own a home, partly because I didn't trust IoT, and I hadn't learned enough on my networking at home to segment it enough. Now I've got that in place. I'm logging up the freaking wazoo, and I said, okay, let's hit this, let's punch it button between Zigbee and Wi-Fi. And literally last night, setting up a sensor to where if somebody's at the top of the stairs, the stairway lights up just there at like half in the middle of the night, so then it's not going to ruin somebody's night vision, but you're not going to trip and fall down the stairs. Versus, hey, go ahead.
This is a perfect example, right? Like, so I think people are going to look back at us and be like, these heathens had to, like they had to turn the lights off and then run into their bed so the monster didn't get them. I just go into my bed and turn the lights off from my bed. Right. Now I just walk into my hallway and I know the monster isn't there because the lights come on. Right. Yeah.
It follows me. Right. It's like the Moon Knight when the light starts following the individual going into the hall.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot of technology we're going to look back and be like, oh, that was silly. Like, I wonder like what major pieces of technology we're going to look back on now and go like, that was silly. Like VR. That's silly. I know I just threw Google under the bus, but you go like that concept going beyond like gaming was silly, or like go on Gulo. I know it's coming.
He's not saying it is. He's saying I wonder if people will look back and say that. Just to be clear.
Oh no, I'm not arguing that. I was going to say SCADA.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, just in general, that SCADA is not going to be a thing in the future, like PLCs?
Well, no, that people are like, why did we do this? We are morons. Oh my God. How could you survive this way? How did the world not explode with you idiots at the helm?
Yeah.
Just hook it up to the internet, right? It was never meant to hook up to the internet. Let's just plug an Ethernet jack into it. It'll be fine.
I don't think that's that crazy though, because like there's iterations of this, of us taking systems that shouldn't have been online and we put them online. That's how, network the idea of networking came about was, well, it would be nice if this was online. So we do this. Like it's smart devices. My lights, those shouldn't be online. There's no reason for them to be online, but we connected them and now it's a good thing. And I would say like SCADA, same thing. Like it's a next iteration of it.
I was sitting in my hotel room. Sorry, this is like small tangent, but it's relevant to what you just said. Sitting in my hotel room, and I get a notification on my phone that says, "Boxy McColdface's door is open," and I had to text Michelle to say, "You left the fridge door open." And I don't think that's going away, right? Things that shouldn't be online. This is like I'm in California and she's in Maryland and I know the fridge door is open and she's like, this is creepy, but also hilarious.
There has been some times like that to where my brother went through and decided to put a security camera system up in the same account that we're watching my grandfather's driveway in. And then he brings home the girls. Hey, so what were you doing the other night? Nothing. Okay, bro. Turn off the camera, damn it.
I think we had, but in the same thing as you had the my garage door. So long story short on this one is the remote on our garage door like just busted, and I am not paying like $1,000 or whatever for a new garage door when I can spend $100 and just make it a smart garage door. What are you looking at, Gator?
We're both Gulo and myself. Yeah. It's time to get a flipper, man.
Yeah, so like I can just make it a smart garage. No, not the remote, the actual transmitter on the garage door, like intent, like that. It's transmitter, so it's easier to just hardwire a new transmitter. And I was like, okay, well, I'll make it a smart one so I can control it from my phone and stuff like that. Super nice because I get notifications when it opens and shuts. So we're on the boat. This happened this past weekend. We're on a boat last weekend, and all of a sudden, it's me, my wife, and we get a notification the garage door has been open. Heck, like I don't have a camera system to know like how did it open. And I look over and I see Alice on my wife's phone. I'm like, oh, you have got to be kidding me. So it's like all of a sudden it's okay, cool, I can close it. But this is one of those. Hold on.
Now imagine that. But it's a nuclear power plant.
It's one of those problems where I'm like, I look at Melissa and I'm like, in some ways, I got a notification that it was open. So it's good that we got a notification. And then it took my brain a second to go like, yeah, but I wouldn't have had this problem if I wouldn't have had this thing. Damn it.
So I think that actually brings up an excellent point that hopefully that we get more controlled in the future to where we actually have profiles set up per individual, and that becomes smarter on application switching and permission switching, including on our mobile devices, right?
That's but this is one of those ones which goes back in time and go, that's a horrible idea, having multiple people logged in at the exact same time so anyone can just switch between them.
Are you... RBAC. Everyone's been complaining about RBAC online recently because it's horrible and everyone hates it and it fails. Yet, no, don't propose that for all the IoT devices as well.
Too bad it's coming.
I was gonna say with Home Assistant, you can go through and set up profiles per device, right? So the whole sensing if there's people around in whichever room, you got sensors with it. We're all carrying personal tracking devices in our pockets to where you can go through and age yourself to where if you're walking in a room, turn on XYZ cooler. If you walk out of the room, turn it off. So we've got these devices. I'm saying that whether it's biometrics or something else to where, hey, if somebody else shouldn't have access to your device, making sure that they can't flip on the switch to turn on and off the nuclear plant or the garage door, that's better controlled.
So here's a question or a point or a rant or something. We've had all of these permission systems for file servers, for files, for photos, for all these different things for decades now. Yet we still suck at setting them up. You guys keep talking about having a network that's everyone just connects their IoT devices to them because that's just how it works. We can't even handle normal file permissions at a user level on a standard computer or on a cell phone for decades. I don't see how we're going to simplify it for the average person to be able to set these profiles up. Now, we could hire a fleet of installers and administrators and stuff to take care of all this, but you guys keep talking about a pie in the sky. They plug in a device and it automatically figures out what it needs to do.
One. Pie's right there, not in the sky.
Okay. I'll jump in with this one. I actually think this was actually AI, machine learning. Like, this is where I think there's this is like one of those, we'll say it's not new. We're getting to the point where we're coming up with better uses for it. So like just recently, this is like one of those ones where I find interesting. In our Discord channel, which, link down below. In the Discord channel, we use Redbot. Redbot's an open source bot, and someone just introduced it with, I think it was called Doomba, Dubba. I don't know what it is. It's the AI technology where what you can do is you can describe an image and then OpenAI will go and generate that image. So I'd say like a penguin on top of a red box in the middle of an ocean, and AI through machine learning knows what an ocean looks like, knows what a red box looks like, knows what a penguin looks like, and it can go ahead and generate the image. I think what's going to be interesting is when we come up with more and more uses for the concept of this quick machine learning, because again, you have to train the model and things like that, where we can do this more on permissioning setup and say, okay, this is how most users are set up. This is this type of incident response already exists, or like detection, which is this is the normal flow. This is a deviation from the flow. I'm going to alert on this, but we can also just plug in an IoT device. It would go, okay, this is an IoT devices. IoT devices typically, from all the ones I've looked at, this is the type of things they should be doing. I'm going to auto configure all the routes to do this. Like, I think those are kind of the next steps. But again, I think we're ways off there.
Weren't you the one that was just complaining about the hippies using open source?
What about it?
You were just talking about your open source bot using an open source AI to process open source images.
He's going to look in the future at it and it was horrible.
I think, like, what you're saying that I have something against? I have nothing against open source. I have absolutely nothing against open source. I think it's a beautiful thing. Is that what you're accusing me of?
That's what it sounded like at the beginning of the stream,
just keep going really high.
Yeah, what Gator just said.
That's okay.
I know what your stance is, and I know you're just playing devil's advocate, but I just love the 180 in the less than an hour.
No, I'm saying looking back is we open source is a beautiful thing and all of that. I'm saying that within so many internet, like so many pieces of, like, look at every open source, look at every technology. This was talking about like using overseas developers for critical systems here. I'm saying there's certain pieces of your code that are automatically exchanged. Anyone who uses Python, the language Python is a shared technology that someone else develops. Your languages themselves are shared, and there's vulnerabilities that exist within just Python. And I think there's the protocol stack. There's so much reused code throughout. And then we're saying like, oh, overseas developers or whomever, third parties writing critical infrastructure. I'm saying you're using open source, you're using shared code all the time. There's no getting away from that. That was my point.
Yeah, I mean, and my point there was just like the realization that this is the case is going to be 20 to 30 years from now. People are going to look at this and be like, how did they not think about this the moment they started plugging stuff into the internet, right? Like when no one thought, wait a minute, who wrote that package that talks to my nuclear power plant? Who wrote that REST interface that makes the blinky lights say everything's good?
Well, and this is like, yeah, go on.
I was going to say, I'm going to completely pivot. So if you want to finish your thought.
No, that's it.
The thought was that, you know what? I don't think we're going to have the internet the way that we have it today in another X amount of years. So what the next generation of hackers are going to think about us is that we had all this around the world communication that literally built another Babylon, that you could talk to anybody around the world. And now it's all segmented and sad because we've all got great firewalls.
I actually agree with that. I think that the internet's going to become a politicized. Oh, how am I not going to get in trouble for wording this?
Going to become.
It's going to be.
Excuse me.
It's going to be segmented. It's going to be the internet's going to be described as a thing of sin, and they're going to start banning things from the internet, and the dark webs are going to spin up, but they're eventually going to die off.
Going
to be? Britain has already been on this, like trying to do this for quite some time. The EU is trying to ban end-to-end encryption there for a little while. I don't think they actually managed to do it, right? But yeah, it's not that. That's why I'm just like going to be. It already is. We're well on the path to that.
Yeah.
Touche.
I think though, look, this is the part where I think it is this like cat and mouse back and forth, and this, we'll call it, whether it's a cyclical process or whatever it is. Ultimately, this, okay, they ban end-to-end encryption or something like that. One, I feel like anytime you do these global bans, a new technology just forms, and I think things like, we have this idea of like, what does the ideal decentralization look like? The problem is like, I think the more decentralized things get, the harder it is to use. There's a reason why Google has succeeded with their search engine like no one else has, because it's the point to access everything. When we get more, like, let's go Tor network in its truest form, actually using Tor sites. There is no way of searching them. Purposefully, there's no way of searching them. So you then have to make a centralized location to find all those sites, which means that's a central point of failure. So I think while the solution might be decentralization, I think the ultimate solution is coming up with centralized points that are decentralized. And I know that's a really kind of an odd statement.
Blockchain.
I would argue
Blockchain solutions.
I would argue against that in some fashions. I mean, I agree with your premise, but my argument is I don't think us monkeys are altruistic enough to do that. If you look at Google, if you look at Amazon, if you look at Facebook, if you look at all of these centralized companies, their whole goal is the dollar, and they will step on and murder, kill, lie, cheat, steal to do whatever they can to achieve whatever goal they have, because they are now centralized and they are the one and only to do X, Y, or Z. But I think that's a human or a monkey issue of altruism more than an actual design.
So
like
this is where
go ahead.
The whole idea from the Damon books, Damon and Freedom, saying that, hey, we should go back to the Holland idea, to where you have some of that information in your local community. So if something catastrophic goes on the outside world, you still have some of that information, like how to grow crops or schooling or whatever else in your local community, to where that's still then able to be distributed, helps your local community again, and then that would be federated across wherever you had connectivity. But that's just my thought.
I think eventually we're going to have people taking open AI technologies along with crypto technologies together to have the open AI produce the data sets to train new AIs, and they're going to call it the block train. Woo woo! Choo choo! There's no stopping this train.
Can we get out of this train wreck, please? I don't want to see it.
And I will be there to make an NFT of the entire thing and sell it. Oh my gosh! I think that's the truth right there, Gator. What do you got for us in summary? What will the future generation actually think of us?
I think they're going to think that we are silly and old, and that it was always hard. And it's going to be true for every generation. But we need to make sure that we still love our hacker family.
I think the newer generation are going to look back at us and go, "Was it always this way?" And we're going to go, "Oh no, it's very much worse now."
Gulo crater is massive.
Thank you for watching, as always. I think you're right. I think in our future generations, we will look back and say it was easier for us than it is for you now. And I think that's going to be the trend in human history. It was easier then than it is now. But you'll figure it out, because ultimately that's what we do as hackers. So as always, thank you for watching, and hack on.